Today we're going to talk about the power of three, and I'm not sure about you. I was raised in the Catholic faith tradition, and by the age of 9, which is 3 threes, I was over it. It didn't make any sense to me, but there were some mystical things that I could appreciate. But there were some things that nobody could answer for me. You know, I had all these questions like, why 3 days? That's a significant question, but no one, including the priest at our church, could answer that question. Why 3s? I had a lot of questions back then. Why 3s for that? And, you know, why do boys have to wear certain things and girls have to wear certain things? And what is mayonnaise? What is that stuff? I still don't know what that is. But it's like, you know, we could ask questions from all these different things, but we want answers. Somebody knows what these things are, and somebody knows why. Somebody knows why. And it wasn't until many years later that the why became something that, you know how when you hear capital T truth, we were talking about that earlier in the year, right? Getting back into simplicity and following truths that are true. Capital T truth has that zing, doesn't it? That feeling. When you hear it, it just does something to you cellularly. You just recognize, yeah, that's right, right? So it wasn't until I found the writings and the wisdom of Paramahansa Yogananda, my guru, when he wrote a book called The Second Coming of Christ. It's 2 volumes. Each one is like that thick. So, and it's not the kind of thing you just kind of whip through like a Harry Potter novel. It's not a page turner. It's wow, you read a couple lines and you have to put it down and just meditate, contemplate, and it can springboard your consciousness into a higher form of creativity than you might have experienced in other ways. It stretches the limits and goes beyond the limits of what you might have held on to as the truth of all truths. The absolute truth is one that keeps unfolding. It keeps unfolding. It doesn't hit a wall of certainty. It conjures up more questions because you're ever progressing on the path. So think of a thing that you are passionate about, like your soul's calling is the one that's calling you to infinity, to continue to live in the question every day and to seek comfort in the question, knowing that the comforter itself that is creating the questions has a response for you that'll keep you going. We never get to the end. You know, it's like the spiritual way of going postal on something. It makes you feel better though, instead of, it never stops coming. It's not coming at you, it's coming to you. And it's also coming through you. So it's not from an outside in perspective where you feel like you need to fend it off or defend yourself. It's something that is already in there, that when we sit in that stillness, that luscious stillness we just were enjoying, how many of you could have sat there much longer? Yeah, we set it all up. And so if you're interested in that, I invite you to join us on Wednesdays from 7 to 8. And we sit in that stillness as a group in an extended period of time. So power of 3. I want to hear a big round of applause for this. This was this month, just last week, and between the Sundays was SoulCall Global's 3rd year anniversary. And so, which means we've started into our 4th year. This is the first of the 4th year of Sundays, which is amazing. From the literal mic drop moment, which is when this launched, when I couldn't tour singing anymore, it was okay, let's just do this thing. And a lot has changed, and we have grown and tried this and tried that, and we're finding our way, and people are finding us. So I want to say thank you to everyone who has sustained us. There's Natalia, there's Aiden, Christy, Helen, all of you in this room, everyone. Too many to name, but I'll try to name them all and then I'll get myself in trouble. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your contributions, your belief in the idea that there's more than one way to do this thing. There's each soul is divinely guided to show up as itself, following the Spirit. So we're going to dive into this, the true meaning of the resurrection today. You with me? Here we go. So again, as I said at the very beginning, Christ is a title. Jesus is the name, the Christ is the title, and it's a Greek word that comes from Christos, which is the anointed one, the enlightened one. And you can find a word similar to it in Judaism. It's the Messiah. They were always waiting for the anointed one. You know, so 3 days, the significance of three. In the physical world, like we find 3 days many times in the New and Old Testament. Like, for example, Jonah was in the belly of the whale for 3 days, right? A really very logical, practical reason for the 3 days, that they waited 3 days to roll back the tomb to see if Jesus was alive or still dead. They saw him die on the cross. Hundreds of people witnessed this. But back in the day, there was no real way to tell if somebody, because sometimes they would put somebody in the tomb and they would still be alive, right? And that happened well into the centuries. Like when you hear somebody who's a dead ringer, you know where that comes from? They would put a bell in the casket up through the ground.
Saved by the bell.
And saved by the bell. But if somebody said it was a dead ringer, somebody would be walking through the graveyard just to make sure there was nobody ringing the bell, like, let me out of here. I swear that happened to me in my life. Does anybody feel like they're I swear I cannot do this. So it's not really fancy, but that's the best they had. Let's go check after 3 days. And if somebody could survive without one. So when they would roll back the tomb, sometimes. So if after 3 days, though, most people were pretty much considered to be gone, right? So on the fourth day, if somebody were still alive after 3 whole days, it was like, okay, this is a miracle. So that's why the significance of 3 days, right? So like Lazarus was raised after 3 days. Jesus raised Lazarus, so that's another miracle. But Jesus, the significance and the difference between Jesus raising Lazarus in his physical body again, now get with me on this one, is that he came back in the same form. Lazarus was still Lazarus. It wasn't a consciousness that was eternal. So Jesus never came back into the same body again. He was eternally in the spirit world as he is today. So if you call on Jesus to pray, you can get in touch with the consciousness of the Christ anytime you want. That is a fact. It's just if you're trying to look for the body of Jesus, that is long gone and it's not coming back, right? So I think about the miracle of being able, like Lazarus had, a shot at life again to perfect and refine his consciousness and to maybe reach enlightenment. So how many times do we know people, maybe you've had this in your own life, where you were met with a serious debilitating illness, or you know someone who has, and the miracles of modern medicine and praying with light and all of this were able to get somebody through a disease that even 20 years ago would have just completely, there was nothing we could do. Remember those things in the movies? You'd see somebody come in, the doctor would say, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. There are a lot of things they can do now, and they do them. And you see these people come out and they write books and they do this thing they never thought they could do. And they inspire many of us who are alive, but are we living? We might just kind of be automatons walking around dead in the middle. But so now, here we are in this century where some of the things would be considered miraculous in Jesus's day. Like people could survive these things. How is that possible? So we get many cracks at life in bodies, like more than just one. But the thing that's most important is to make sure that we can resurrect the 3 levels. So the 3 days is significant because it took each of these days to resurrect a different level of consciousness. The physical, the astral, and the causal. The causal world is the most subtle of the 3 and is contained within the other 2. So it's the energy that comes from it, and it's like the world. I wrote this down purposely because I want to make sure I got it right. It's the body that transports the essence of the individual from one life into the next reincarnation, the causal world. So think about it. If we have the power, which we do, to transform our physical beings, to make them more of a vessel to carry a lot more light, all right, we can do that. Transform the astral, like our thoughts in relationship to something that's not yet seen, but is very visible in there. The sounds and the colors. I think of artists who paint abstract art, or musicians who just write from seeming out of nowhere. We pull this music. It's not nowhere, it's everywhere. And we just hear it. And then you hear it through your physical senses, and it might take you to that place. Like for me personally, the highest form of music is a doorway that I can hold open for you through song. And I want to sing, like we said, singing itself back to you as pure as possible without a whole lot of interruption, so that it can be a conduit between worlds, a threshold, if you will. Music can be that. So it can take you to the place where it came from if we don't put too much bass in it. I'm just kidding. So there's that. And then there's the causal. To transcend and transform the causal world, you've got to start the business of that today. Yogananda says, after you transition this world and leave this earthly form, just because you die, you don't get there. You get a little break, but it's what you're doing here that really matters and helps you to incarnate where you left off. But you can incarnate with a consciousness of a Christ, of a Buddha, of a Lao Tzu, of a name your favorite. Pick your favorite prophet. Like, who is it? We can do this. And the reason that they came in physical form was to show us that it's possible. Otherwise, it's just a story. That's not possible. Jack and the Beanstalk, is that possible? Or is it just a story? So we can see the difference, right? And you can think of people in your life right now who are walking saints. They have transformed their consciousness, and they can totally do wonderful things and inspire others without losing themselves in the ego pull of, I need the energy from other people. It's the people who are giving, right? That which is most receptive gets more, and because it knows how to give. So resurrection means to rise again. And what rises again, and how? So though restoring the life to a deceased body, as Jesus did for Lazarus, is indeed one form of resurrection, what Jesus evidenced after his crucifixion was much higher. This is Yogananda talking from, once again, the second coming of Christ. I'm going to do this because... Hello. It was the resurrection of the soul. Not that this is a bad sign. All right. It was, and these bodies are awesome. We should be excited about being in a body, right? We consider the alternatives. So it was the resurrection of the soul into the oneness with spirit. So the soul resurrecting into the oneness of spirit. The soul's ascension from delusory confinement of body consciousness, which is why when we meditate, we say, pull the senses in, put them back in the spine and brain. We're not listening to anything outside. Mm-hmm. We're trying to turn off the senses, bring them all inside, turning those searchlights within to hear the more subtle astral sounds, to hear the Om, to see that light. We're tending to the soul when we meditate. It's finding that balance, giving every part of ourselves what we need. So Lazarus and others whose bodies were raised from the dead by Jesus gained new life, meaning the new opportunity for spiritual advancement. But Jesus' resurrection lifted his consciousness beyond all relativities of vibratory creation and merged his capital S self with the transcendental absolute spirit. Yeah? Yeah. That's for me. I don't know about you. It's like, if he can do it, I want to do it. No soul, this is Yogananda, no saint, no Christ or Buddha has resurrected themselves at the time of death or in the highest samadhi states of meditation without entering this inner door to transcendent consciousness. So if you think just by dying you're going to get there, you're going to get somewhere and it's going to be nice, but that's not it. You got to do it here. You got to do it here. As soon as one feels the soul, frees the soul, from the physical, astral, and idea bodies, that causal body, you can merge with the formless absolute or experience oneness with the great light of the universe. That is the light of the infinite Christ, the God essence, the sustenance in all creation. So the resurrection does not only mean resurrection of the body, but the ascension of the soul from the three bodily encasements to live immortally in oneness with the spirit that is manifesting as the whole universe. Is that for you? It's like, wow. Now, I see some people with like furrowed brows trying to figure out how to do that or what that might be like. You have no idea. It's beyond your thoughts. It's beyond any joy you've ever experienced times a million. And there's nothing to see. Nothing to see here, folks, is what I will say. It's all vibration. So a couple times, and it's when you're deeply concentrated. Have you ever had an experience like that where you're everywhere at the same time? Like where you know you're in cosmic consciousness, but you don't know it until you get back to here? While you're there, you just have this sense of knowing everything, of just knowing everything, and nothing at all. Several times this happens. And it's mostly happens to be when I'm focused on something that is just for the fun of it or the joy of it, or I'm not focused at all on anything. I'm just taking in awe, literally. Wow, a situation that is mind-blowing, I've never experienced before, something great, like a vista. Maybe nature can do this often. But you know, the first time it happened to me, I was 7 years old and I had a little Matchbox car. And it was the 70s, so we had that nice raised carpet design through the house. And so all my focus was on this little car. And it was almost like, when I think about it now, it was kind of like the infinite consciousness focused on all of us doing the things we're doing. But I was focused on this little car, and in the car, in my imagination, I had a little family in there. And there was a little conversation going on. Now, not like the conversations that would happen in our family's car, like, if I have to stop this car. That's not what happened in there. It wasn't that, or there was nobody. In my imaginal world, you know, we had 7 people in our family, so we were always crammed into a car. And the conversations that usually took place in our car were things like, her leg's touching my leg, you know, and we just wanted our own space, you know. My dad would be like, I'm going to touch both your legs in a minute, you know. Yes, you know, can you imagine? I mean, I can only imagine. My parents did all right. I mean, geez. So back to the car. So I'm imagining a perfect scenario, 2 kids, not 5. And the conversation's happening, and I'm pulling out of the driveway, making it just like when we pulled out of our driveway, boom, boom, like every little detail. And all of a sudden, I was everywhere. And it was like watching, what I saw was the fuzz of, remember when the televisions used to go off at 11:30? It just looked like that. And in it was everything. I was everywhere. And I felt, it's hard to describe because I wasn't really feeling anything. It was an everythingness, things that I can't even describe, right? And then next thing you know, I'm back, holding this little car. And I didn't know what had just happened, but I quite preferred it. Like, oh my gosh. And it became very confusing because I started to think, not about just what happened, but my 7-year-old mind didn't have a context for what that was, but it knew it very well. And I, in fact, used to dream of it every night. I'd fall asleep hearing the Om. So I was everywhere all the time. But this is the first time I had a side-by-side, like going to the eye doctor, this or that. What do you want? I would much prefer that. It was very comforting to know that I didn't have a little body to kind of maneuver around, even though my body's fine. I love my body, right? It was just, so I put the car down. With a confused look, I walked into the kitchen where my mom was peeling potatoes for dinner. And her little Zen practice was, you know, she has, that knife is still in the house. I mean, it's not even sharp anymore. It's very dull, but it's the one. It had a little wooden handle, but her thing was trying to peel one whole potato without breaking the skin, like one big spiral. So as my mom is in there creating spirals, which is cosmic, I just wander in, and she has seen this look before now. So her face was, oh God, here comes one of these questions. You know? And so she had a unique way of bringing me back to a grounded state, which I appreciate, my little Pisces mind. And I just said, if I wasn't your kid, whose kid would I be? And because I just had an awareness of I could be anywhere, anytime. There's no such thing as all of this. And I, in fact, was just everywhere. What am I doing here? Was the question I was trying to get to. What am I doing here? And she said, what do you mean? And I didn't know what I meant, really. But I just said, I could have been born anywhere. And she was like, Okay. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I think she broke the spiral on that one. And then I said, if I wasn't born here living in this house, which house would I be living in? What I was trying to say. To which her response was, do you not like living here? Now I laugh about that, and so I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get the answer here because I can hardly form the question. So that's when I got busy with the idea of questions. And the only person, the only thing, the only entity I could ask this question of was the infinite. And so what it really did was solidified my relationship with God. This is the only way I'm going to get the answer to these questions because it's the place the gift came from. If you gave me a gift on a holiday and I said, I love this, where did you get this? You would be able to tell me. So you can't ask about a gift that you've been given from someone who has not been, who didn't give it to you. They don't know. The next time I felt that several times, and it still happens, but a more deep one was when I realized Paramahansa Yogananda was in fact my teacher, who could answer all these questions, not just even through his books, but through meditations. And it's another thing that I feel close to me everywhere I go. So my wish for everyone in this Easter is to resurrect your own consciousness beyond the limited ideas that of the things you think you need to bring you happiness. Let go of all of that so the infinite can give you the thing that's missing. So clearing the way, prepare you the way of the Lord, right? John the Baptist, Jesus rode in on the donkey on Palm Sunday, and it was in preparation for the Holy One. Everybody came out to celebrate. Palms signified somebody of a worthy stature, a holiness. You're that holiness. You've got that worthiness, that stature of a Holy One. And remember that. And it's not hard to do. Like many of you come into the meditations on Wednesday, and it's such a sacred stillness, but it's all there for us. It's all there for us. So Jesus' resurrection was little understood and much disbelieved, even though he made himself visible to hundreds of people, not only his close disciples. In those days, they comprehended only that Jesus was dead and that he was alive, right? So they figured, well, it was after 3 days, he must not have really been dead. He was alive. But they did not understand the science and the art of ascension and resurrection as defined in the timeless scriptures of yoga, which means union. Yoga means scientific union. It's union. No other science has detailed the descent of the individualized consciousness of God as the soul into humans, as its evolutionary and spiritual ascent back into spirit. In this modern age, Kriya Yoga, which is a divine holy science, it's like the royal science, and what Yogananda teaches, has been brought forward, and it was almost lost in the Dark Ages. But there's another great saint named Mahavatar Babaji, and Maha Avatar is like supreme avatar, supreme teacher. And he is without a body, like he comes and goes. People see him all the time. Like, have you been able to see holy people sometimes? An apparition, you hear these stories, we want to believe it. Believe it, and you will see it, right? Seeing is believing. Be the Missouri State. Show me. Ask the infinite for a sign, but prepare the way. Don't just ask and don't think you have nothing to do and just wait. Do your part to meet it halfway. Have you ever met a friend who lives far away and like, let's meet halfway in the middle? Like Natalia and I, during the pandemic, we would write music. She would drive, State College was our midpoint. We would meet halfway and we'd create amazing music. Meet the infinite halfway. Give it 25% of your attention during the day and recognize that it's with you all the time. Like when I was younger, I used to imagine all these light beings around me, and I could actually see some of them, right? Well, now sometimes when I forget, I make them make a little bit of noise, like they're all carrying their stuff. Like we're a band of musicians traveling, and sometimes I need to remember that they're around me no matter what. And so I'll make like ching, 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 like noise. Here they come, like Ruby would say, the band of drunkards are coming little by little. The non-beings are being gone is what Ruby said, meaning here we are, these humans who just believe we're limited. We're beings, but we're kind of non-beings because we're not engaging in the powerful nature that we have access to. And the true beings are coming. The true beings are the ones who allow for this participation with infinite spirit, not just the one that powers your day to day, but draw on that cosmic force. It's mighty. It can do anything. It can do anything. And all we need to do is ask. So let's see. So the life and consciousness of an ordinary person is so tied to the sensibilities and attachments to the flesh that it can't begin to ascend from the delusion of the body until it falls asleep or until death removes the body cage. Yeah, so don't wait till death to feel the freedom from this body cage. Allow your spirit to soar. And the devotee who practices transcending the consciousness of the body by daily meditation will say with St. Paul, I die daily, I am resurrected daily. You will certainly retain his consciousness when death comes and ascends, and as you ascend from the body into the heavenly joy of the after death state, you'll maintain your consciousness. You'll know who you are. You'll know why you came. Next time you come in, you'll be very deliberate about what you're doing. You won't be willy-nilly. You'll know it. Some of you already do, right? Or you have glimpses of it, like where you feel like, right in alignment with divine purpose. There's a different way it feels when you feel like, wow, I haven't felt so on point as I do right now. So when those on point things come, stick with those. Let it unravel, like I say, the red carpet of consciousness for your soul, and delight in all the light that's going to be coming your way, like the photos. It's all the light coming your way, the light of consciousness, the light of being, the light of capital T truth.